Well, well, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. We're going to talk about what is Sunday Stuff and Things for new viewers. We've had some new subscribers coming in because of some of the photography content that I've been posting, so I just want to go over that. I want to ramble about accents a little bit, because I was listening to a podcast recently that had what I consider the most pleasant British Isles accent there is, and I kind of want to go on about that a little bit, see what you guys think. I know we have a lot of listeners from the UK, and I have an ear for accents. I really enjoy different accents, so I want to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about a blast from the past hard candy that I discovered recently. We'll get into your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings. And then, of course, we will end the show with Patreon shout-outs and updates, things you can look forward to exclusively on Patreon. So, let's get into it. The weather is changing, gang. You can see it is cloudy. I am wearing a jacket, my beautiful Perfecto by Schott. It's not windy, which is nice. Windy. Did I say windy? It's not windy out. The light is nice and even. I think you can see me properly, so this will be a pretty pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. But what is Sunday Stuff and Things? So, if you've been following my channel for a long time, you will know this already, but I've had new people coming in. I think I got a few hundred new subscribers just from that Gary Winogrand rangefinder versus SLR video that I posted recently. The Sunday videos are, and have always been, an update on what's going on with the channel. I talk about videos that you can look forward to coming up on the YouTube channel and on the Patreon channel. I might have a topic of the show, something that has occurred to me throughout the week. It might have something to do with photography. It might have something to do with pipes. It might have something to do with just general life, things that have been going on in my life. We get into feedback that people have left on videos that I have posted throughout the following or the previous week. You might be wondering, if you're here because of photography, why do you keep talking about pipe stuff? What's going on with the pipe stuff? I used to post more about pipes on the YouTube channel, and YouTube has decided they don't like that stuff. And so we've kind of been having to migrate that stuff over to Patreon. And so if you are wondering what the pipe stuff is, you don't have to worry about it if you're not interested in it. It's only being posted on Patreon now. If you are interested in it, we still give little updates on it throughout the week on the Sunday videos, on the Sunday Stuff and Things. But again, if you are looking for those videos, they are on Patreon now because that's where they have to live. The YouTube channel is going to carry on the way it has always in the past with the other topics that I like to discuss. Things about hobbies, interesting products that I've enjoyed, obviously a huge focus on photography, and then the only difference really is that the pipe stuff that I used to talk about on the main channel has now been moved over to Patreon. So, Sunday Stuff and Things, channel updates, videos you can look forward to, kind of daily life stuff, things that maybe have occurred to me throughout the week, and then shout outs to Patreon supporters and things that you can look forward to on Patreon. Just kind of a check-in every week. And then the Wednesday videos are the ones that are more focused on whatever topic I have to discuss. This is just kind of general channel news. So if you are new, thanks for watching. I hope you stick around. All right, so I need to get my phone out, and I want to play something for you, if I can find it, hopefully, easily. I was listening to a podcast recently, and it's a podcast I listen to all the time called The Ancients. Good podcast, you should look it up. Just talks about ancient history. It is a host, Tristan Hughes, who has guests on, usually professors, who might be focused on a certain aspect of ancient history. And why isn't this here? Oh no, I don't want unplayed. I want all episodes. And recently, he had a guest on who has been on before. Is it this one? I'm looking for the person. What was his name? Stephen Kershaw? That's not it. Oh, here it is. The Sumerians. So he had somebody on called Dr. Paul Collins, who is an Assyriologist. And as I was listening to the episode, I was struck by how pleasant I found this person's accent. And there have been other people on. Well, let me play you a little bit.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here. And it's great to be doing it in person at the Ashmolean Museum. And this is an incredible place when talking
This
about
is Kristen Hughes, the
Sumerians,
host.
straight off the bat. We're extraordinarily lucky here. I mean, we've got such a rich collection, which means we can explore 10,000 years of ancient Middle Eastern history. And of course, within that, a great deal of material which relates to the Sumerians. First of all.
Okay, so that accent there. I know it's Welsh. I don't know what part of Wales that is from, but it struck me as I was listening to this professor, Dr. Paul Collins, speaking, just how pleasant that accent is. It has the rhoticity that American English has, most dialects of American English, where he actually pronounces his R's at the ends of words. Most accents or many accents in the British Isles do not do that, especially just kind of like the standard received pronunciation. It has just this pleasant little lilt to it. It's maybe a little more slow. There's another professor who has been on the ancients a lot, and a lot of other podcasts I listen to about ancient history, called Lloyd Llewellyn Jones, and that is like obviously a Welsh name, and he is obviously Welsh. His accent is very similar, but I don't know what part of Wales that is from and how much regional variation there is in Wales. But it just made me think, if I had to pick the most pleasant sounding British Isle accent for me, it would be that Welsh accent. And again, I don't know if I could just say a Welsh accent, because maybe there's huge variation in the Welsh accent, but that kind of, whatever Welsh accent that is. I don't know what part it is from, but I really like it, and I find it really pleasant. And then I was curious what British people think of as the most pleasant American accent. And I've heard a lot of foreign British people say that it's the Southern accent. Now, just saying Southern accent is not very specific, because there are lots of variations to that Southern accent. But it's funny to me because as an American, when you hear someone, no, let me talk like this, that kind of accent, we tend to make fun of it sometimes if we don't have that accent. It's often, I think incorrectly, but sort of stereotypically considered maybe a more ignorant sounding accent in the US, but I know that a lot of people who are foreign actually really love that accent. And I can too. When I was in North Carolina, I loved the North Carolina accent. There was kind of a more mild version of it. And especially when a female is speaking with that accent, it can be extremely pleasant. It was actually funny though, because it was when I was with my ex and we were visiting her family. And I asked her dad, her family wasn't really from there. I think her dad was from Eastern Pennsylvania and her mom was from Ohio, but they had moved there when my ex was in her teenage years. So my ex didn't have that accent either. She had kind of an Ohio Midwestern accent. But I asked her dad, like, where could I go to get the best kind of Smoky Mountain rural version, like crazy version of this North Carolina accent. And he brought me to a bait store. And it was amazing. The accent there was absolutely amazing. And I could understand everything they were saying, but there were just so many interesting idioms and just the pronunciation was so crazy. I've noticed as an American and being exposed to different accents, I think I do have an ear for accents. And I've never once interacted with anyone in the US who I couldn't understand. And I think there are some very strong accents in the US, but sort of the general American, that amorphous blob, that accent that is, standard on television and films and things, that covers such a big part of the US, or there's kind of a veneer of that over much of the US. It's pretty much all the West, even though there are regional variations in the West as well. I have read, and I sort of tend to agree, that the Pacific Northwest version of General American is probably the most boring and least inflected native English there is. That's the accent that I have. And I don't know. I mean, I think I sound like a robot much of the time. I think that there's very low affect. There's very little inflection. Everything is just very straight line. There's, you know, the whole merger of our vowel sounds, the cot merger, so C-A-U-G-H-T and C-O-T. Mary and Mary, like Merry Christmas, and then Mary as the name. In the Northeast, you'll have way more variation in those vowel sounds, just as you will in the UK usually. So it seems like to me the Pacific Northwest version of the standard American accent is very, very little inflected and very kind of boring and monotonous sounding. I know it's supposedly very easy for people who speak English as a second language to understand, but I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts out there, people who are mostly interested in people who aren't from the US and especially from the UK? What's your favorite US accent and why? If you are not a native English speaker, what accent is easiest for you to understand? I'm just curious, thoughts on accents. There was some guy I was doing some work with recently, and he was speaking, and when I heard him speak, I went, oh, okay, he's Canadian. And so I asked him, are you Canadian? And he went, what? And I said, well, yeah, you sound like you're Canadian. He's like, I mean, I'm actually American, but I lived in BC for 20 years, so British Columbia, which is on the west coast of Canada. I was like, how could you know that? Because you sounded Canadian. It's this funny thing where there's a stereotypical kind of hoser Canadian accent. I'm gonna take out my notebook and write a note, eh? Like that sort of accent, but I've almost never come across that. I don't know if it even really exists, if that was just something that Rick Moranis invented. I think maybe Eastern Canada that exists. The accent in British Columbia is very similar to general American. There's almost no difference, but you can tell certain things in the vowels. And it's funny that when I meet somebody from British Columbia, I've had this conversation several times where they will say that we don't speak any differently. Like there's no difference between my accent and their accent. But then I ask them, well, how could I tell that you were Canadian? And they usually have no answer for that because there is a difference. There's the aboot, and usually it's not that strong, but there is something there. And there's also just something with vocabulary too, like they'll say adult instead of adult. They'll put the emphasis on different syllables and stuff, but I don't know. I'm always curious about accents. I'm curious how other people perceive different accents if they're not from the US. And yeah, I'm especially curious to know what UK people think of which American accent is the most pleasant to them. I'm assuming it's gonna be Southern accent or maybe something in the Northeast. And then also, if you are English as a second language, what American accent is the easiest for you to understand? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I came across something recently that gave me a sharp pang of nostalgia. Let me grab these. And again, I'm gonna need your help in the comments. Do you recognize these? These little strawberry candies, if you have ever had a grandma, your grandma, if you live in the US, I don't know if it's the same in other parts of the world, might have had these candies in her purse or in a little glass candy dish. These are these strawberry bonbons. And I hadn't thought of them at all since I was a child, but then they just kind of cropped up on Amazon, and I ended up buying a pound of them. And so they're these strawberry hard candies, but they have this strawberry flavored goo in the middle of them. Uh-oh, I got paper on mine. Oh man, well, let me get this paper off. I don't want to eat the paper, gang. Okay, wow. And I bought these thinking I was gonna have this super nostalgic experience. I probably should have put this in my mouth. They're good, but they don't quite taste right. These are Cambie, C-A-M-B-I-E is the brand of these ones, and I guess they're made in Argentina or something. They're close to the ones I remember as a kid, but not quite right. So I wanna know, all of you out there, if you are familiar with old woman candies. I mean, obviously there's Werther's Originals, there's those peppermints that were just like the round, kind of flattened peppermints that had white center and then the red stripes on them. We always had that, the Andes mints, and then the strawberry bonbons. And I wanna know what brand is the quintessential, like standard brand from the old days. I've heard brands like, I think Russell Stover makes them, Arcor, A-R-C-O-R. So I wanna get some again, but I wanna know which ones are the perfect classic kind, because I don't think it's the Cambie ones. They're not quite doing it for me, and especially the strawberry goo in the middle. just doesn't feel right. It has kind of a waxy, almost taffy-ish quality to it. It's not right. It's not the proper strawberry goo. So let me know in the comments below which strawberry bonbon is the classic old woman strawberry bonbon candy. So I'd like to get some. Of course, I bought a whole pound of these and I'm gonna have to get through them. But now, gang, it is time for hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, but you shouldn't because nobody does and I never read Twitter anyway. If you're a Patreon supporter, you can write to me via Patreon, go right to the front of the line. You can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line, or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback in the comment section of my YouTube videos. Just like at BNGR_BNGR did on last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. I need to take this candy out. Hold on. I cannot talk and eat this candy at the same time. Okay. BNGR_BNGR says, so we were talking about why I only shoot black and white in my film camera and why I only shoot one black and white film in my film camera, which is Kodak Tri-X. BNGR says, when I was using film, I used Tri-X and T-Max. I just found I could push T-Max without crazy grain at its limit. So yeah, somebody else had commented recently that they thought I should try T-Max. So there's Kodak T-Max. There is a 400 speed version of T-Max. And I may try it in the winter when things get super, super dark and super, super gray here, and I'm out trying to take photographs with higher shutter speeds. I may take 400 speed T-Max and push it up to 1600 because the development time isn't that much more for T-Max than it is for Tri-X. And I think even if it's super fine grain at 400, I don't really want a super fine grain film, but if I'm pushing it to 1600, it'll probably maybe be similar in grain structure. Well, maybe not in structure, but in the amount of grain as Tri-X, not be super, super grainy, but not be super, super fine either. So we'll see. I'm gonna experiment with that in the winter. At Michael Case 8574 says, some people go out trying a lot of different black and white films looking for the cheapest with acceptable quality results. You're not trying to find the cheapest film available, so there's no need to go on a quest for the cheapest. You have made your choice. Yeah, and the thing is that Tri-X isn't really that expensive in the US. And it actually went down. It used to be about 10 bucks a roll when I first started shooting it, and then Kodak lowered their prices on Tri-X, which is amazing. So now it's about 9 bucks a roll for 36 exposures. So it's good value, in my opinion. I mean, it could be cheaper. It used to be way cheaper back in the day, but it's not bad. And then at Ortsilanda says, Ortsilanda, I agree with you regarding the use of one black and white film and your reason behind it. Another option could be the Ilford HP5, which also has a very old emulsion and a classic look. But you have already found a film you trust and you enjoy shooting. In my case, I also enjoy shooting in color for landscapes and travel photography, Portra 160 and 400. Yeah, and I tried HP5. That was the first black and white film that I actually got, and I didn't love it. I don't know what it was exactly about it. I know a lot of people compare HP5 to Tri-X, but there just was something that I didn't quite love about it. And then also, the development time is significantly longer with D76 than Tri-X is. And I know that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but you know, when I'm waiting 9 minutes and 45 seconds and doing my agitations with Tri-X, then if I have to do, I think it's like 11 minutes and 30 seconds or maybe even longer with HP5, I don't know. I just found it kind of annoying. So that's why I ended up going with Tri-X. As far as Portra, I'd love to try some Portra. It's just so expensive that, I don't know. And also if I do color, I have to send it away. But I might experiment with a little color. But yeah, I'm mainly going to be sticking with black and white and Tri-X. And then at Seth Potter Photo says, good reasoning for shooting exclusively black and white. It's nice to get home from shooting a roll and develop it the same day. That's true. Another YouTuber, Bad Flashes, did a comparison of several black and white films. That name is familiar. I'm sure I've watched some of his videos, and found the differences were minimal when compared directly. Sure, there are some minor differences in contrast and tones between each one, but not enough to say someone is missing out on something for not trying all of them. Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, I know there are differences, and I definitely notice a difference between HP5 and Tri-X, but at the end of the day, if you just pick something and go with it, it's going to be fine. Like, I think we get so into gear and all these different, it's because of the YouTubeization of hobbies where people are constantly wanting to try the other thing. Like, is this thing slightly better than this thing? And I think in some ways, if you kind of limit your choices, you might end up with better results because you aren't constantly thinking about some other medium you could use or some other piece of gear you could use. You just decide on, this is my thing, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna get really good at this thing. Not that, I mean, it's totally fine if you're into using other things. If that's what you enjoy about the hobby, that's great, but that's not my main reason for doing it. Tri-X is a classic black and white negative, and you can't go wrong with it. T-Max is my personal favorite because of how low grain and sharp it is, but I understand that low grain and sharp isn't what most people are after when they choose to shoot black and white film. Yeah, and I'm not trying to get out of here. Got yellow jackets circling my coffee cup. I'm not trying to get like this super grainy, gritty look from Tri-X, but I've never tried to push Tri-X to 16, and I do think it might be too grainy if I try to do that, and so that's why I might want to try T-Max. I think you're doing it right, focusing on keeping the variables constant. It definitely helps you focus on composition and the actual images you're producing instead of wondering about all the different lenses, cameras, or film you could be using. Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel Seth Potter Photo, or it's exactly how I feel Seth Potter Photo. Thank you for the comment. And then at John Jones says, Seahawks off to a great start in 2025. I don't appreciate the sarcasm, John Jones. Yes, they lost. They lost, and it was annoying. The offense did not look great. Maybe it'll improve. We had, wow, fish jumping all over. Oh, there's a seal right out there. Hey, oh, and there's fish jumping all over the place. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by wildlife. There's a seal just staring at me. And what are all these little fish? Whoa. Whoa. There's a seal going crazy. I wish I could turn the camera on this. And there's just these tiny little fish that just keep... I think there must be a seal under trying to grab them and they're jumping out of the water. I know as soon as I grab the camera, it's all going to go away. Anyway, what was I talking about? Seahawks, yeah, we'll see. Their defense, there was some reason to be happy about the defense because they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, Brock Purdy, but then Reek Woolen was doing horribly at corner, so I don't know. We'll see. And then at Corbin Bourbon says, I said I hate football at least 5 times a day in frustration. It's so funny to me how you talk about it. Yeah, I'm curious if you hate it because your team was doing poorly or if you just hate it and people were talking about it. And then we have some feedback from the Me Plus Slim Pads box opening and first impressions video. So the Me Plus, this notebook system that I'm really loving right now. These fish are going insane. We have Les Brady from Patreon who says, I'm digging the snap ring spine. Very cool. I can't believe you didn't have a knife on you. LOL. Yeah. Need to be making sure I have my knife on me at all times to open packages. And then at Greg Murdoch says, wow, I really like those. I'll wait for the full review. At Cascadian Piper, full review will be coming. Not super soon because I want to use them for a while, but soon. Cascadian Piper says, so it's a day runner? I don't get that. I'm not sure what you mean there. And then at Bishop 2009 says, just when I thought I didn't need a different planner, along comes this. Oh, and there's one more from at Blake's Pipe says, let's get that beard back for the winter. I think I showed a clip from the original Midori Traveler's Notebook video, and that was over 10 years ago, and I had a big bushy beard, and it wasn't gray. Now my beard is becoming gray, and I find it irritating, but I might grow it out again. We'll see. So yeah, I love the Me Plus Slim Pads, and I think they're really great. It's kind of the most I have enjoyed a new notebook in a very long time, maybe since that original Midori video. I just love the snap rings. I think it's so cool. Oh, you can't see this. And I love the form factor. I love the precision of these rings. They're German made, and we all know that Germans are good at making rings that snap. So yeah, I think if you haven't checked out that video, you should, and then we will do a full review soon. So thanks for all that feedback. Please keep it coming in. It really helps make the show go. But now, gang, it's time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support Stuff and Things on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is basically what lets me keep making these videos. It's the best way to support the channel, and if there's any kind of content that I put out that you enjoy, your support on Patreon really makes a difference. You get access to all the YouTube videos that I post early and ad-free on Patreon, Plus, you get access to the archive of the old pipe blend reviews that had to be taken off of YouTube. They're being put back on Patreon. And then any new pipe stuff where I show actual smoking has to go on Patreon. So you'll get exclusive access to that as well. And every week we like to shout out those who support Stuff and Things at $25 or more a month. The producers, people like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, The Friendly Piper, GreatGrol, Glenn, Just Glenn, David Severin, Nicholas James, Kyle Whitmore, Mr. Gibson, and Chris Caughey. And then, of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support Stuff and Things for $100 a month. People like Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. So, if you are a Patreon supporter, what can you look forward to exclusively, go away, Yellow Jacket, on Patreon this week? Well, we will be having that Samuel Got With Perfection First Impressions video. That's coming up this Monday. And then on Thursday, from the archives, it's my review of Orlick Dark Strong Kentucky. Very interesting dark fire blend, and I think that's 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago. I think it was in either August or September of 2015 that I did that review. Lots more good stuff coming up on YouTube and Patreon. Please stay tuned for all of it. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. Where'd that seal go?